We're back here now on the Chip Shot Football Podcast to get to the biggest news, undoubtedly, of the day for the New York Jets and really just the entire NFL. The New York Jets trading for Davante Adams this morning. The news broke this morning after a 23-20 loss to Buffalo this morning, 12 hours before this morning, where they lost to the Bills, dropping to 2-4. The Jets finally said, enough is enough. We're hitting the red panic button, and everything that we can do to improve this team is going to be, now going to be executed, right? We're going to go through and have all these options and have all of them available to us to now, go fully invest into going all in on this season, right? Let's go out and get Davante Adams, and really now, there's no excuses anymore for this Jets team. They don't care about anything else other than getting wins because of how much they've invested into this team, into this season alone. So they went out and got Davante Adams, and reportedly the Jets are sending the Raiders a conditional third-round draft pick that could become a second-round draft pick if either Davante Adams is named to the first or second team AP All-Pro team at the end of the year, or if he's on the active roster for a potential AFC Conference Championship game or a Super Bowl. Either one of those things happen, and this third-round pick for the Raiders turns into a second-round pick, which obviously is the desired outcome. How likely is it? Probably not that much, but it is the terms of the trade. So that is what the situation is right now. Those are all the terms and agreements of it right now. So yeah, the speculation over the obvious potential trade finally happens to reunite Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers are finally now reunited to help this Jets offense, which, like I just finished saying in the last segment, right, that it did get better with the coaching changes and the play calling changes, but you need that win. You need to start racking up these wins, especially, again, with the amount of expectations that are placed on Aaron Rodgers and obviously now Davante Adams, who is included into this entire fold for the New York Jets. So it's important to also realize and to take into account for anybody wondering about the contract and the financial side of things. Before this latest update by Adam Schefter that I will get to, it was agreed upon by the Raiders and the Jets that the Jets will be taking in all of Davante Adams' contract. That was a reported speculation of whether or not, teams were willing to trade for Davante Adams, knowing that they would have to essentially take in all of his contracts. Some teams wanted the Raiders to pay off some of it, but the Raiders weren't going to do that. And like I said, desperate times call for desperate measures for the Jets. So they decided, forget about the contracts, forget about everything. We'll take it all in. Just give us Davante Adams. And that's what they're doing now with his contract that, again, the Raiders will not help pay or will not help take some of that salary cap hit from the Jets. That's all going to be on their salary cap, on the Jets' salary cap. And now Las Vegas will have a $15.7 million dead cap hit in 2025 instead of taking in Davante Adams' $44.1 million salary cap hit. So that's a big difference there, and one that they felt was worth taking to just get Davante Adams out of there. Not that they wanted him to leave, obviously, but with Davante requesting a trade and whatnot, it was definitely something that helped convince them ultimately going forward. And the Jets will pick up the remaining $11.59 million of Davante Adams' salary in 2024. But the update now with the new restructuring of Davante Adams' deal, according to Adam Schefter, stated that now Davante Adams and the Jets have restructured his contract to lower his salary cap number to $3.21 million this year, with 2 voided years added onto that towards the end of this deal. And the Jets and Adams will discuss Adams' future after the season and what they're going to do long term. But that the new salary cap hit is 3.21 instead of that $12 million. Like I said, it's not a pay cut. It's just been converted over to a signing bonus or something like that for Davante Adams. So it's not going against their cap, but it's not just like going up in the air, right? It's still going to Davante Adams, but through some gymnastics, obviously, the Jets can kind of avoid that being on their salary cap. So that's important also to mention, and what was a big point of emphasis throughout this entire trade process for Davante Adams. But now to get my thoughts on it, once Davante Adams requested this trade, it was always going to be the 1A option be the New York Jets, obviously, with the amount of players that they have, talented players that they have, like Garrett Wilson, obviously, Brees, Alan Lazard, who's familiar with Adams, obviously, from their time in Green Bay. Rodgers goes without saying. Nathaniel Hackett's there, obviously, still. On defense, great players. Quincy Williams, C.J. Mosley, Sauce Gardner, all the guys they have available to them. This one was always the most appetizing to me. If I was Davante Adams, this is where I'd want to go, especially with the quarterback that I've had the most success with. And it was too obvious. It was too obvious not to happen. And I don't have a problem with the trade, but I know the Steelers were rumored, and I never really convinced myself to think that the Steelers were going to trade for Davante Adams. It was never something that fit what they ever did, that being the Steelers. But the timing of this, they couldn't have waited like 1 week or something to not play the Steelers potentially the first week that Davante is potentially going to be there in Pittsburgh. The timing of it sucks. Really, that's how I feel about it. But it's how the circumstances, sort of played out, right? Because if the Jets win last night, who's to say that maybe they hold it off a couple of weeks or hold it off maybe one more week? If they're sitting right now at 3-3, maybe they're feeling better, right? Because Todd Downing called a good game. Jeff Ulbrich got his first win as the interim coach. Maybe they're just going thinking, we're fine right now. We don't need to throw all caution to the wind and go after Davante Adams, right? But because of the loss and the way that they lost, especially with how bad they were in the red zone, every second thought, any hesitation went out the window, and they just went out and completed the deal. And to show you how close this was, obviously, Davante Adams was there this morning. I think he flew in like last night during or after the game. I don't know specifically when, but he was already there this morning, right? This was already initially going to happen, I guess it seems like, and I think just the loss especially helped, facilitate this and get it over the line, evidently, for the Jets. So this is obviously going to help their red zone, like I mentioned. That's their biggest thing, because now with Todd Downing, I feel like they've got more of an identity of how to move the ball, what they want to prioritize in terms of the running game. I think last night was a great example for them to show them how Brees really makes everything easier for everyone when he's involved, when he's getting touches in the run and passing game. And it showed. It only really kind of crumbled on itself was in the red zone, where maybe Brees isn't able to run one in. You have those penalties that obviously don't help, and that's more so on the players. But seeing how Todd Downing facilitated and orchestrated this offense now in this new way of play calling compared to Nathaniel Hackett, I think that's encouraging now. But getting it over the line is always a lot harder than it seems. And these two guys, Adams and Rodgers, did it better than almost everybody during their prime years in Green Bay, from I think it was like 2018 to 2021 or something like that. But this obviously makes that easier. Their offense now looks like an ultimate team that you have on Madden, which is it always feels like it's too good to be true, but I guess evidently not, with the Jets just fully investing in this team now. And it's great on paper, right? But it really just leaves no excuses now for this Jets team, for Aaron Rodgers, where when the shortcomings do come, when they're probably going to lose a couple more games maybe, there's nobody else to look at other than Rodgers, other than Joe Douglas. You could also say Woody Johnson, the ambassador as well. The higher ups who are looked at as having the most power, there's nowhere else to scapegoat. There's nowhere else to run other than just looking directly at them, right? Because you're pretty much doing everything now to cross off all the options, to not have any more what-if scenarios, right? And that's great, like I said, but I just have some hesitations on how drastic everything's been put together and how, sporadic everything's been for the Jets, right? One week, just last week, we fire Robert Saleh, we promote Jeff Ulbrich, we make the change over to Todd Downing, and now we're bringing in Davante Adams. So it's all exciting because it's all fast paced and whatnot, but it just feels discombobulated, like you don't know where to turn before seeing some breaking news from the Jets that they're changing something else on their team. And not only that, with this Davante Adams deal, it looks like they're shopping Mike Williams now, who they just brought in this offseason. It looks like they're trying to offload him now. And it's just a lot. It's just a lot to really make me feel 100% confident in them, because I don't think having Davante Adams necessarily obviously blocks better for Aaron Rodgers. How do you share the ball now with Breece, Davante, and Garrett as well, making sure everyone's content with their share, and also having Davante, having Garrett, those two guys are going to be nightmares for defenses. But how much do you still remember to incorporate Breece? Do you do that too much, and now the wide receivers aren't technically or necessarily happy, I should say? All those things I just have my doubts about, and we'll have to see it play out. The first test is going to be against the Steelers, which will be interesting on Sunday Night Football, but the trade obviously goes down now and takes control of all the news going around the NFL nowadays. So it's exciting. It was obvious that it was going to happen with Davante asking for a trade, but now comes the hard part, right? There's no more alternate solutions to this. You have everything now. You have all your pieces, and if you fail now still, it's going to be looked at as, I think, one of the biggest failed projects just recently in the NFL in recent memory. And how it affects legacies and all of that, I don't really get into that just based off of this short-term big impact project, but it'll certainly, as far as projects go, be such a big failure for the Jets, for Joe Douglas, for Aaron Rodgers. But we won't get into legacy talks or anything like that, because we have some more things to talk about on the Jets, right? With all these transactions going on, don't overlook the fact that Haason Reddick is still technically a Jet, but not for much longer, it appears like, because the Jets have given him permission to seek a trade over the next few weeks to try and figure something out and move him after they just acquired him this offseason. So we're going to talk about that. What does it mean for the Jets? How does it make them look? And where could Haason Reddick now potentially end up after being on the Jets, but not really? So we're going to talk about that when we return after our next break. You're listening to the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast.
Looking